that booger whistle, baby. Oftentimes, the communal living that the guru demands doesn't match up to the guru who's driving around in a freaking Rolls Royce. What? How many swamis got a dang Rolls Royce? What? I had vision last night. The ascended masters came down to me. They says, Swami, you are to get Rolls Royce. That's that booger whistle, baby. They're energy vampires. That's that booger whistle, baby. I got a booger whistle flute. They're energy vampires. That's that booger whistle, baby. How many Rolls Royces you got? Get over there in that communal living. By the way, get out of my Rolls Royce. I heard he's got 14 Rolls Royces. And by Monday, he would have 15. That's that booger whistle, baby. They're energy vampires. That's that booger whistle, baby. I got a booger whistle flute. They're energy vampires. That's that booger whistle, baby. Black kings, black bishops, black players, people of the chocolate persuasion. Black kings, black bishops, black players, people of the chocolate persuasion. Black kings, black bishops, black players, people of the chocolate persuasion. Black kings, black bishops, black players, people of the chocolate persuasion.
The Dark Ages was a time when black people ruled Europe. So when you go into the real history, you'll see King James was...
That's King James right there. That's James LeBron. That's King LeBron right there.
Black. He was not a white guy. You'll see his whole lineage of kings.
Black kings, black bishops, black players, people of the chocolate persuasion. Black kings, black bishops, black players, people of the chocolate persuasion. Black kings, black bishops, black players, people of the chocolate persuasion. Black kings, black bishops, black players, people of the chocolate persuasion.
Who was a homosexual himself, who was in love with his sister Lucretia, who they made the image of Lucretia to be Mary. And that became the Renaissance era. Lucretia.
So hold on, you telling me Lucretia? That's a black name right there. How you gonna say that the people that was framing the black people were also black? That don't make no sense. Lucretia is a black as hell name. Lucretia. The church even allowed it, you know what I'm saying? The church allowed for straight pimping. But that have been suppressed. Listen to my brother.
I was born in Romania in a Christian family. Pentecostal. I was born in Romania in a Christian family. Pentecostal.
That's a damn church right there. That's time for the church, son. We about to have an eyes wide shut church party in the basement. That's what they call an after party. Y'all ever heard of the after party? You know what I'm saying?
I was born in Romania in a Christian family. Pentecostal. I was born in Romania in a Christian family. Pentecostal.
I put my key in the ignition. I'm fresh out the kitchen. I put my key in the ignition. I'm fresh out the kitchen. Sipping on coke and rum. I'm like, so what, I'm drunk. It's a freaking weekend, baby. We about to have some church.
I was born in Romania in a Christian family. Pentecostal. I was born in Romania in a Christian family. Pentecostal.
That's a damn church right there. Sam, ham, shamu. This actually could work though. Would you dance with Sam Shamu on the dance floor? Sam Shamu, he's at the dance club. dust on his shoulder, cause he didn't clean up his nasty-ass cat apartment. Sam Shamoon is on the dance floor. Ladies, orbs, all are welcome. Please dance with Shamoon. I've got moves, moves, moves. Sam Shamoon, Sam Shamoon, Sam Shamoon. All you pretty orbs on the dance floor. Muta with the Shia tonight. All you pretty orbs on the dance floor. I see a lot of orbs lonely tonight. Big shapely orbs, come and dance with Sam. He's single on town. Your mom's doing Muta with a Shia. He's got man boobs, he can relate to you. Sam Shamoon's on the dance floor. All you orbs on the floor tonight. Tonight's night. Every orb on the dance floor. Dance with Sam Shamoon. Muta with the Shia tonight. Every orb on the dance floor. Dance with Sam Shamoon. Muta with the Shia tonight. Do the Sam shuffle. Sam shuffle tonight. Muta with Sam tonight. It's Muta on the dance floor. Muta on the dance floor. You son of a devil. All you pretty orbs on the dance floor. Muta with the Shia tonight. All you pretty orbs on the dance floor. Muta with the Shia tonight. All you pretty orbs on the dance floor. Muta with the Shia. Muta with the Shia. All you pretty orbs on the dance floor. Muta with the Shia tonight. Muta with the Shia.
New details emerge from the
Mormon space wives. Let's create lives. Mormon space wives. God the Father has a body. It's a very toned body. It's good. Mormon space wives. Mormon space wives. Space sex. Space sex. Magic underwear fitting tight. Magic underwear is feeling right. Mormon space wives. Mormon space wives. Lords of Cola. I would like to have intimacies with you on the planet of Naboo. Mormon space wives. Magic underwear. Where? Right there. Mormon space wives. Let's create lives. Mormon space wives. God the Father has a body. It's a very toned body. He looks good. Mormon space wives. Mormon space wives. Space sex. Space sex. Magic underwear fitting tight. Magic underwear is feeling right. Mormon space wives. Mormon space wives. Lords of Cola. I would like to have intimacies with you on the planet of Naboo. Mormon space wives, magic underwear. Where? Right there.
Mormon space wives, let's create new lives. Mormon space wives, our God has a body, it's a very toned body. He looks good. Mormon space wives, Mormon space wives, from the space sex, space sex, space sex. Magic underwear, fitting tight. Magic underwear, feels right. Mormon space wives, lords of color. Let me have intimacy with you on the planet of Naboo. Magic underwear feels so tight. Magic underwear feels so right. Mormon Mormon space wives, creating new lives. Mormon space wives, Mormon space
And we even had a Jeff Stein make every connection to the Mormons. What are they doing with the Mormons? What are they doing with the Mormons? What are they doing with the Mormons? The SpaceX, the little space babies. They're shooting them up into the atmosphere. He's shooting off into the atmosphere, making little space babies. I don't know what that was. Some sort of strange miniature Tony Soprano? I don't know. Welcome, everybody. We getting out of the planet with this space hit. Mormon space wives. Yet another day of madness as we enter into the week of the greatest vindication of all time for any conspiracy theorist. This is your week, baby. Hats off to the conspiracy people. This is your week to win. We are vindicated. We are vindicated. Mormon Max Con. We're vindicated, y'all. We have won the battle, but the war still rages on. It really is. This has become the biggest thing in the world right now, I would say. You know, we had recent massive events, such as the Charlie Kirk tragedy. That was the biggest news story of recent times. And you thought that it couldn't get any bigger or crazier. Jeff Stein McEffrey has taken over the world news-wise. There is nothing bigger than this right now. However, according to the normies and normiedom, such as your normie journalists, who cares? It doesn't even matter. There's not actually anything that exciting about it, as if it had anything to do with excitement. This is literally what the normie shills are saying on Twitter. Normie journalists. Remember the old NPC blue check mark people? They all went away. They died, right? Back when Elon got a halt. Ever since I can remember, I've been popping my collar. Ever since I can remember, I've been working these hoes, and they better have my money in my hand. That's a joke, by the way. What's these quasi quoting rap songs? Because it's Juicy J. J Dyer, Juicy J. They're talking about me, dude. Anyways, the blue check marks have all gone away, except the alternative blue check mark people showed up. And what happened to the blue? Well, now they're saying it doesn't matter. Who cares? It's boring news. Ben Shapiro is having to do a podcast tonight and say,
Oh, okay, so allegedly, it's all allegedly, okay? Facts, logic. Okay, it's Mormon Space Ones, okay? Okay, it's Mormon Space Ones, okay?
is the okay thing, is that was that? Did they train the Daily Wire people to do that? Because Candace is like, okay. So like, okay. The journal, the journos, they're basically a dead profession. So let's get into it. It's just every night is as crazy as the previous night because every internet nerd, sleuth, and conspiracy person is combing through the documents to try to find new information, and everyone is finding absolutely batshit insane information on a minute-by-minute basis. Every time I open Twitter, I can't believe the next thing I'm reading, and immediately I was like, okay, we got to see if this is real. Is this one real or not? Before we get into all the new pumpy dumps that are out there, we're going to talk about the Roman Catholic side of things, because this was a bit of a dispute today. So let me scroll all the way down to exactly what was being argued. I'm not going to play the debate clip with Pine Sap again. You can go listen to it. It's on the J Dyer Clips channels. The clip is very clear in what I'm arguing if you pay attention. I was not arguing that the Vatican has now allowed everyone who's gay to be a priest. Rather, openly gay people can now become priests as long as supposedly they're celibate. And to be exactly precise, what is the change is the document says now it's no longer a question of just the sexuality necessarily disqualifying you. So in other words, if you had a tendency in the past to Skittles things, or were Skittles, that would immediately disqualify you according to canon law. Now, of course, we know this was not enforced because estimates are 60 to 80% of Novus Ordo priests are actually Skittles, which everybody kind of knows. It's well known. Recent books, documentaries reported that even the Vatican itself, 4 of 5 Vatican priests are actually Skittles. When you go to Rome, there's the hot priest calendar, and it ain't for women. And yes, it's real. That was not the argument. The argument, as often happens when it comes up in debates with Roman Catholics, gets shifted into a different topic, maybe the goalpost, casuistry. Oh, but what did the document actually say? The point is that in 1558, Pius V wrote a bull. All right, and let's make it full screen for the nerds. And in this papal bull called Horrendum Illud Scelus, it notes that the previous Lateran Council had issued very stiff penalties for Skittles clergy. And it goes on to say that, in fact, Pius V, the sainted Roman Catholic Pope of Trent, he's not an Orthodox saint, he's a Tridentine Pope, said they ought to be handed over to the civil state for the unaliving punishment, the death penalty. That was Roman Catholic morals, ethics, and justice in 1558, according to papal bull. And presumably because the death penalty was the normative teaching, especially in the Catechism of Trent, and even prior to that, all the way up to the time of probably John Paul II, I think, was the first pope to begin to say the death penalty is unjust and should not be used and so forth. Francis went so far as to say that it is against the gospel. Hey, Jamie, could you bring me a water? Thank you. So the argument was, this is a contradiction. The move from the morals in 1558, demanding a handing over of Skittles clergy to the civil state for capital punishment, is 100% night and day the opposite of the Vatican approving Skittles men who live chastely and are not necessarily disqualified because of their inclinations from the priesthood. Yeah, but it doesn't say that you can be practicing gay. And no, I didn't say that. That was not what I said. You can be openly identifying as that as long as you supposedly don't practice it. That is the opposite of a moral stance that Skittles clergy are not only defrocked, they're handed over to the civil state. Now, let's not forget that it was Francis who argued that Skittles civil unions should be allowed. Remember that debacle? Remember Eric Ibarra having a meltdown over that? Remember the Roman Catholics freaking out? Well, it's not a sacramental blessed marriage. Yes, that's not what we're talking about. Civil unions allowed and supported by the papacy. Well, if you're going to get married in the church, it's got to be a man and a woman. Yeah, that's not what the argument is. The argument is that Roman Catholicism has denied its previous strict moral teaching. And remember, the papacy is not just infallible in faith, it's infallible in faith and moral teaching. Thus, faith and morals cannot contradict. And yet, why would we be surprised when the death penalty was rejected by John Paul II, Pope Francis, and the Roman Catholic Catechism, explicitly many times over, that the other moral stances would begin to develop. Now, Cleve played a clip today that relates to Leo apparently, and I just heard this earlier today. I wasn't even aware Leo said this. Apparently, Leo has given a talk where he said Roman Catholic morals are not fixed, they're dynamic. And they're all coping, saying, oh, this just means living magisterium, applying it to the times of, to the morals of today. Really? Who actually believes that that's what that means? And how is it being applied in the Roman Catholic world? Let's see. It's the audio on this clip that's low. Hey! So, Cleve notes that there are 6 Catholic dioceses now that are permitting the ritual Skittles blessings for the monogamous Skittles relationships. Why is that relevant to this? Well, remember, before Francis died, there was the change in the blessing of irregular relationships amongst couples, and Roman Catholics went into a tizzy in the Pope-splaining industrial complex went into overdrive, hyperdrive to explain, no, the document doesn't actually say gay marriage. Nobody said it did. The argument was not about that. The argument was that it now changed the previous CDF position under Ratzinger that Skittles couples could not be blessed. Now, as a couple, they can be blessed. It's not condoning the sin, it's just getting a blessing. It's a blessing of the couple, it says, in an irregular relationship. Just as you can't get blessed with your crime partner before you go rob a bank, you cannot be blessed together as a couple, which is what it says, with your Skittles buddy. And so they go into overdrive trying to explain that it doesn't mean what it says. And I know it doesn't say marriage. This is the stepping stone to that. So now what's being practiced in 6 dioceses, at least as far as we know, there is the blessing to do this. What was the change on the priesthood? Previously, gay things, Skittles things would immediately disqualify you. The change in the document literally says this aspect of a person's life, the Skittles attraction, should not necessarily disqualify them. So that is a change. So everything I said was correct. And Leo approved that for the Italian bishops. So it is a Vatican Leo approved thing. And that's what the debate was about. But of course, the debate no, it's not. It's the wording. It's the wording of the document that says that nothing has changed. Well, nothing has changed except for now that desire no longer disqualifies you. That's the change. And even James Martin was praising this change 1 year ago. Let's play the Leo clip. Now, we're going to tie that. This actually ties into the Epstein stuff, and we're going to see why here in a second. And Cleve mentioned it earlier. I'm going to touch on it. But I do want to play the brief clip of Leo saying morals are dynamic. Okay, what does that mean? Well, let's see what he says. I thought Cleve said, by the way, if you're a Catholic, you can go to the Harry Potter Mass here. If you're wanting to go to the Novus Ordo in Germany, you go to the Harry Potter Mass. Oh, and by the way, a reminder, and this ties into the Epstein stuff, Spanish bishops call for the regularization of 500,000 migrants. The Roman Catholic Church is a giant NGO trafficking organization, in my view, that is facilitating the destruction of these nations. And all of these idiot trad cats prop up the institution that is destroying their country. They are so stupid and so hard-headed and cult-like that it doesn't matter what happens. They will triple down to defend all of this insanity to their own destruction. And that's what happens, that you unfortunately get what you deserve when you triple down on these things. Now, here's Leo. Let's see if we can get a... there is a video, but I think this is just the article. Pope Leo said in his audience the other day, doctrine, worship, morality, etc., they're not static, they're dynamic, they develop, and it's more deeply understood by the church over the centuries. Now, of course, everyone knows that in Pius X's document condemning modernism, it was this very idea that was condemned. You can read the Syllabus of Errors, and that very line and wording and phraseology is condemned in the Syllabus of Errors. I think there's also condemnations in Lamentabili as well. So you've got at least 3 or 4 previous papal documents that condemn modernism and this type of understanding. And here's other trad cats in the comments even noting this. If anyone says that it's possible at some time, given the advancement of knowledge, that the teachings of the church can differ or change, etc., let him be anathema. Now again, death penalty is explicitly no longer part of the Roman Catholic teaching explicitly, from the papacy down, from John Paul II on. And what's the basis of this? The dynamic relationship of morals to the interpretation of the Roman See and the Magisterium. It's not fixed, it's dynamic. This is all setting the stage for you to accept the stages before, as Timothy Gordon correctly said, this is a sacramental interlude, a stepping stone to Skittles' marriage. They know that you're not going to accept Skittles' marriage right away. So what do? They give you a stepping stone, which is the blessing of the couples. And then it becomes down the road when you're all primed and pumped, butt pumped, and ready to go, then it changes. Now, remember, he also mentioned the Catholic charities, and this is how it ties into the Epstein information, because Catholic charities, as we've said, is the actual number one. I think it's in the stats where 93%. Jewish charities was about 6 or 7% involved in the importations. Catholic charities was dominating it. Lutherans as well. So you have the liberal Protestants, you have Jewish charities, and you have Catholic charities being the number one source of the importation, including Somalis, which leads to thousands of dollars per person brought in. And this is the Roman Catholic Lepanto Institute saying, why was Epstein donating money to Catholic charities of the Virgin Islands, mentioning the youth programs? Well, I wonder why. His foundation actively supports education across the Virgin Islands. Jeffrey Epstein is a former Council on Foreign Relations member. He's a member of the New York Academy of Science, etc., and former board member of Rockefeller University. There you go. Now, this relates to what I shared about the Vatican. And so let's briefly cover that because that came up yesterday. We're not going to rehearse all this, but we're going to point out that the Roman Catholics have no reading comprehension. They're completely ridiculous. They didn't actually understand what the document, the email says. And they acted like it's disqualified because it is from 2015. And John Paul was not the Pope at that time. Really? Are you that silly? You have no reading comprehension? You can't understand that the argument is not that in 2015, Epstein was hanging out with John Paul II. The email is rehearsing a story in the past about Epstein's time with John Paul II. And we know that he did go and spend time with John Paul II because there is a known way old pre-AI photo of his time there. Now the Roman Catholics, oh, this is just a blessing. Well, this corresponds to the time around 2003 that this email is discussing Epstein hanging out with John Paul II and staying presumably either in Rome or at the papal apartments or whatever. It says he just lived there for a time. It doesn't specify exactly what was going on in terms of the amount of time. It could have been 2 days, 5 days, 10 days, who knows? But it was apparently, according to the email here, enough time to discuss the procuring of various architectural monuments and columns. So they were discussing architecture. That also, by the way, lines up with other interests that Epstein has. As you know, in the last 3 days, we spent 10 hours worth of live streams going through the emails. All the ones that we can tell are at least most likely 100% true or verifiable. We've avoided all the really ridiculous kind of clown show shit. So in other emails, he discusses his penchant for architecture. For example, he talked about how interested he was in stripes. And remember, his temple had the stripes or whatever the building is on the island. And he wanted to, for example, study the effects of vertical and horizontal stripes on people being raised in those environments. Twins. He wanted babies that were twins to study in those environments. In other places, he talks about replacing and digging the tunnels, and he's had these architects come out and dig and so forth. So he's very interested in architecture, and I guess if you're building tunnels underneath your little St. which was confirmed, that was real, you would be interested in architecture. But the other reason this is not far-fetched, as we pointed out, is because the other notorious PDF trafficker was also awarded and spent time at the Vatican. What was he awarded with? Oh, you're talking about Jimmy Savile, the notorious, apparently Satanist, PDF, was not just invited to the Vatican, but was awarded the papal knighthood from John Paul II. And you might think, well, they didn't know. Really? It's amazing how much John Paul II doesn't know, even though we do know that John Paul II was regularly meeting with the CIA throughout his pontificate. That is reported by multiple CIA pro and con writers, other intelligence analysis analysts and historians, including Gordon Thomas in his book on the history of the Mossad. All of that is not even really disputed because the original CIA connections with the Vatican go back to the time of the OSS, particularly through Bill Donovan and James Jesus Angleton. And then after them, William Colby during the Gladio time, the Gladio operations. Now, turns out, no, they're not actually going to they're not actually going to strip him of his knighthood. So even though he's a rabid necrophiac and a PDF procurer for the elites, and even though he was able to bypass Secret Service and security at the Vatican, because you realize, like, you don't just go hang out with the Pope and get awards unless you've been vetted, because the Vatican has its own Secret Service. You know that, right? Well, then that means that Jimmy Savile not only was vetted by the Vatican security services, but was given an award, a prestigious papal knighthood that cannot be taken away. And of course, for many, many years, John Paul was criticized all over the Roman Catholic world, including by all of the Tradcat world, for famously covering up and silencing the rampant abuse of the youth, moving the bishops around, particularly, for example, Cardinal Law, Bernard Law. And that's just one example amongst zillions. So is it really that surprising if he's giving a papal knighthood? This is their great Saint Pope, supposedly, giving a papal knighthood to one of the worst, most notorious, like Epstein, Jimmy Savile. Why is it that outlandish that he would be spending some time with Jeff Stein McEffrey? It's not. But the reason that Roman Catholics went into overdrive today to try to explain this away and give it, no, that's not actually what's going on, it's all fake, is because they deep down know that if this is the case, then John Paul II is not a saint. And if he's not a saint, then that undoes the entire system, because you cannot doubt sainthood in the Roman Catholic system. Sainthood is part of the ordinary universal magisterial teaching. Because think about it. If you could doubt and reject sainthood from the Roman See, if you could question the Roman See's beatifications and canonizations, well, then you could doubt them all. You could, oh, well, maybe St. Augustine's not a saint. Maybe St. Athanasius is not a saint. So that, in other words, it's a Pandora's box, and the whole system would be then undone. Another little interesting piece of information. I can't remember if we covered this last night. No, we did. Robert Maxwell was actually trying to play both sides and also tried to target
the Mossad itself and extort Mossad for 400 million, and that's what led to his timely demise, because he presented himself as Israel's unofficial representative to the Soviet bloc, because he was playing both sides. Well, guess who told you guys that? What? Since 2019, we did. My good buddy Mark Hackard translated the KGB colonel's analysis of Robert Maxwell and his dealings, and the Soviets, the KGB, knew of him as a double agent playing both sides. So this means that the thesis was correct all along. We were correct on that as well. This was a little interesting reaction here. This is not itself in the Epstein files, but it is wild to see Nicki Minaj talking about all of this and how it makes perfect sense that Jay-Z would have an association with a lot of this, due to the fact that Jay-Z seems to prefer these people when they're younger. So you have, I think that's Aaliyah, and then you have him with Queen Bee over here. And as we saw yesterday, Jay-Z made his entire Instagram go away. It is all deleted except for one photo. Now, I want to mention this again because this also makes sense with the Epstein-Vatican connection in regard to what Epstein explains to an actual banker, right? One of the Harvard Clinton Viper banker crew, Larry Summers. It's interesting that Epstein has to explain to Summers how this actually works with the Vatican and the Vatican Bank and Gladio. This is everything that I have told you guys in the last several years about Gladio. And how many Roman Catholics even touched it? Oh yeah, 0. How many Roman Catholics wanted to debate it? None. And what does it say? Well, let's read what Epstein explains to an actual banker, Larry Summers, a Harvard, Clinton era vulture capital. He was responsible for the looting of Russia in the 90s, Larry Summers, from the Clinton administration. And Epstein understands the inner workings of global shadow banking. And that seems to be where he really flourished, because obviously he was doing more than banking. He was running a basic, I want to say basic bitch Bond villain, but he's an actual Bond villain. He's not a basic bitch Bond. He's an advanced level Bond villain. Although we will see some interesting things that point out that he seems at times to kind of be retarded too. It's a weird mix of Jeff Steinbeck effort here. So he says the most important change in the Vatican is not Pope Benedict XVI suddenly retiring, but the change in leadership at the Vatican Bank, the Institute for the Work of Religion. Many of the Vatican's, because of the Vatican's status as a sovereign country, it is exempt from transparency rules, not just in Italy, but also the EU. This status allows its elite clients to evade any scrutiny in their money transfers. Last May, the Vatican Bank president, Ettore Gotti Tedeschi, was fired after Italian authorities opened an investigation into a far-flung bribery scheme in which he was allegedly involved. Then 47 dossiers, including compromising internal enemies of his in the Vatican, were found in a search of his home. They had instructions on how to use the case if something happened to him. Tedeschi's intercepted calls further revealed that his concern was that he would be assassinated because he knew about the Vatican's secrets. By 2012, he was cooperating with the ongoing Italian investigation. It was at this point that the all-powerful College of Cardinals, in one of the last acts of Benedict's papacy, appointed German lawyer Ernst von Freyberg as the president of the bank. Then came the extraordinary resignation of Pope Benedict XVI. So in other words, Epstein understands the inner workings of the Vatican Bank, which again suggests to me that, no, he was actually closer to the Vatican and to John Paul II than these people have actually let on. Now, in regard to John Paul II and the Vatican. Isn't it interesting that I'm going from memory because I don't have the book here with me, but we have referred to this book and studied this book many times. Gordon Thomas is a longtime intelligence writer, a journalist, historian, and he has a book called Gideon Spies. And there are several chapters. This is, again, just straight up mainline intelligence history. It is not a conspiracy text. It is a mainstream journalism text. And if we look, even though this was written in 1999, we're going to notice quite a few things that have actually been vindicated from his thesis. For example, Gordon Thomas claimed that Mossad has ruthless super secret operations across the world using spies, agents, and informants. That's also backed up in Victor Ostrovsky's book By Way of Deception and his sequel to that, also about deception and Mossad operations. That is the Cyanim, all of that, the Katzas, all detailed in that book. We referred to it for the last 10 years. I've mentioned this book. The controversial claims are that even during the Clinton administration, Mossad maintained a mole in the White House, codenamed Mega. Well, guess what? Mega comes up in Whitney Webb's book as a thesis for either the Mega group or perhaps someone like an Epstein. The tapes included tapes of Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky, which recent news reports have said turns out that was directly related to the Jonathan Pollard story. And perhaps Pollard was involved or was a kind of a mega, who knows? But we know Pollard was involved in selling U.S. secrets on behalf of the Mossad of Israel. He also suggested that Mossad was involved in, the death of Robert Maxwell. And that's what Jeff Stein McEffery just confirmed. So it sounds like Robert Thomas was on the right trail and involved in Princess Di. What did we see last night? Jeff Stein McEffery, closely aligned and knew and had met Princess Di and perhaps had a crush on her. We covered that last night. Yep. Mike Huckabee's BFF, correct. Sources and criticism. The book was based on 3 years of research with former Mossad directors, agents, including Rafi Eitan. While praised for its negative or for its narrative, some question the reliability. Well, guess what? A lot of what he said has turned out to be true. Now, how does it relate to what we're talking about? Well, guess what? There's a chapter on John Paul II and the Mossad. And under John Paul II, the Vatican began to have close relations with the Mossad. Isn't that interesting? And now you're going to tell me that even though all of that has borne out to be true, but no, you see, yes, Jeff Stein McEffery hung out with John Paul II. And yes, Jeff Stein McEffery knew about the inner workings of the Vatican Bank. And yes, he got a blessing from the Pope. And yes, but John Paul II didn't do anything. And he is not implicated, and he is a saint. Well, then why did he recognize? Did the spiritual discernment not tell him what was going on with Savile and Jeff Stein McEffery? Where was the Holy Spirit's discernment in the mind of the Holy Father during these tumultuous times? And why would there be relations set up between John Paul and the Mossad? I wish I had my copy of the book here. It's at another place. But if you have the book, you can read the chapter on John Paul II. I'm going from memory here. It's towards the end of the book when these relations are set up. And I want to say it's 80s or late 80s is when this actually happened. Because prior to this, actually, the Vatican did not recognize Israel for a long time. But it was actually this sort of liaisoning and this relationship that was cultivated that I'm talking about, where the Vatican eventually did recognize Israel. Let's see when that was. Yeah, so 1993. So that's around the time that I'm talking about, and the Gordon Thomas book in that chapter goes into how the Mossad was involved in establishing this recognition and this relationship. Now, why would it be under John Paul II? Well, it just turns out that according to what's that woman's book? It's all I think I might have that book here. There's a woman that wrote that book. I haven't thought about this in a long time, but I think I have it here. And it's about John Paul's close relationship with the Jews, because his lifelong best friend is Jerzy Kluger. Hidden Pope, that's it. Yes, I do have this book. Let me see if I can show you that I have it. Yeah. So, bear with me. The personal journey, the untold story, lifelong friendship that has changed the entire relationship of Roman Catholicism and Judaism. Now, where are the Roman Catholics talking about this? No one was more responsible for changing that relationship, according to mainline Catholic writers and biographers. I have the giant Weigel biography, by the way, of John Paul II, which has multiple chapters confirming the information, the thesis of Darcy O'Brien's book as well, right? Witness to Hope or whatever, the giant neocon John Paul II biography that everybody knows about. No one was more influential in changing the relationship and supporting the thesis of Nostra Aetate than John Paul II. So the people who actually read books know what's going on. We are the ones that are correct. That's why everything that we've said about all this stuff, whether it's the networks, the OSS, the CIA, the Mossad, the British intelligence side of it, Ian Fleming, Quigley, all the big geopolitical texts, the reason I keep getting all this correct is because I actually have read the books. And most of your face lord talking heads don't even read books. They have a team of dorks that read internet posts and then give them on a teleprompter shit that they can't even read, like the architecture and the green berets and the macabre. This topic is very macabre. So you listen to people who literally can't read. I actually read, and then you won't listen to me. It's amazing. What a strange world we live in. All right, so that's enough on John Paul II and his relationship to both EPSTEIN McEpries, the Mossad, and more. Let's get into some of this other crazy information. And by the way, I didn't even think about the fact that Gordon Thomas's theories, they're actually all vindicated in these Epstein files and emails. So guess what? No longer theories. And he's probably actually correct on the other stuff. Now, remember, another book vindicated in a lot of this that I wrote 10 years ago. And the articles I was writing are older than the 10 years ago when it was published, right? I wrote my books, or I wrote my essays years before we actually published them. But I wrote Esoteric Hollywood in 2016 based on articles I'd written all the way back to 2011. And what was the first thing I wrote about Hollywood in 2011? Oh, it was about Rothschilds and their relationship to elite sex cult networks And I even had a picture of the Rothschild ball for you there from the 1960s. Oh, but Jay doesn't talk about any of this, even though I wrote a freaking book on it before any of you poopy pants dorks were even out of your crib. And then I wrote a whole trilogy on it, Esoteric Hollywood 1, 2, and 3. You can get signed copies of Esoteric Hollywood over at jaysanalysis.com in the shop. Your boy right here was spot on. Even before Queen Quandus and all these dum-dums had any clue what was going on. She probably still in high school when I was telling you all this stuff. And does anybody want to? No, everybody wants to listen to Charlie Kirk's time traveling Sumerian Mitch Snow Fort Huachuca bullshit, dude. Well, you get what you deserve. Let's get into this. Crazy stuff breaking every moment. Who even knows? You know what? We might just have to cover this every night for the next several weeks. I don't know, because like every minute people are finding just absolutely insane stuff that in the past would be like the story of the week, right? Any one of these emails in the past would be a week's worth of news cycle 10, 20 years ago. And now it's every minute. We can't even keep up, dude. I've done 10 hours of streaming in 2 days, and we're already 1 hour to 1 or 2. Are we 2 hours in or 1 hour in? I can't tell. We're already 10 hours in, basically. All right. This is a bizarre one. This is a text exchange between presumably Woody Allen's adopted wife, Soon Yi, where she thanks Jeffstein McEffrey for, quote, lottery tickets. This one was so crazy, I just had to look at it. They received lottery tickets from him and says, if you win, give me a cut. Okay. Now, supposedly, this might have actually been winning tickets. I'm not sure. And I don't know what this is citing, but some people are claiming that he did actually win. But who actually believes he won? Obviously, this would have been rigged, okay? And I think there was Jamie was talking about a recent scandal where they found out that insiders were rigging the lottery in one of the state lottos. I mean, well, duh. So that is not hard to believe. Let's see if we can find any news articles about that. So yes, a few months ago in Missouri, 23 million stolen in lottery scam. Florida leads nation in lottery scams. Vegas, lottery scams. Study reveals Alabama is 10th. $19 million stolen in lottery scams and fixing since 2020. Ohio ranks 4th in lottery scams. So, yes, this is common. And it says this, I'm not sure what this is. It looks like a news article that somebody clipped. Did Epstein actually win a Powerball lottery while he was in prison? It's not a completely crazy question. In 2008, shortly after Epstein began his 13-month prison sentence in Florida, an entity called the Zorro Trust, or probably related to Zorro Ranch, I'm not sure, but it submitted a winning ticket for the $85 million jackpot. The ticket was bought at a convenience store in Oklahoma. The trust took the money actually as a lump sum, which ended up being $30 million after taxes. Look, what a scam that is. Look at that. So you can win $85 million. And the taxes take 55 million. That is absolutely insane. Even Jeff Stein McEffrey gets scanned by the taxes of it. As it happens, Jeff Stein had an entity called Zorro Trust. He used it to make donations to politicians in New Mexico, where, yes, he had the Zorro Ranch. A federal prosecutor in New Mexico has begun an investigation as to whether Jeff Stein McEffrey abused people underage at this ranch. So this seems like an older news article. A few years ago, the lawyer representing some of the alleged victims took the prospect of Epstein winning the lottery seriously enough to bring it to the deposition. Oklahoma City newspaper did a little more digging and discovered that the anonymous winner worked at the grocery store. Apparently, she decided to use the same name as the Epstein Trust. So maybe? I mean, that still sounds really suspicious. But there is an email chain with Woody Allen's adoptive wife thanking Epstein for these lottery tickets. So just an odd one, not a huge scandal, but could suggest a possibility of insider lottery scamming. This one is a weird one just because of the upcoming Super Bowl performance and allegedly, this degenerate weirdo, Bad Bunny, is going to be performing, who is supposedly TRANZ. In 2020, Puerto Rican members of Bad Bunny's entourage were accused of rape and PDF and abuse. Bad Bunny denied the claims and distanced himself from his crew, but it should be noted that Bad Bunny was selected by Epstein file rapper Jay-Z to perform. So, according to this, what looks like a mainstream news article, Jay-Z is the one that had the say-so in this degenerate performing at the Super Bowl. Not surprising, but why is Jay-Z deciding that some Puerto Rican trans guy gets to perform at the Super Bowl? It's just weird. It's not, though. All right. Jeffrey Epstein and Joshua Bach discussed genetically engineering black people. Now, as a BIPOC person myself, I do take deep offense to this. Okay. It says, Jeff Stein said he wanted to engineer BIPOC people to make them smart. He said black kids are not smart. They do not catch up. The brains is slow, and they got a challenge at learning high concept. He said that it is genetic. You cannot explain this in social factors. He is writing this to Joshua Bach, a German cognitive scientist and AI researcher, who's also a philosopher known for his work on cognitive architectures, AI, mental representation, emotion, social modeling, etc., and philosophy of mind. So here's Jeff Stein McEffrey. And somebody had a good tweet about this earlier, which was, you know, our whole lives we've been told that the greatest sin is to be a racist. And there's nothing more morally offensive and horrendous than racism, and particularly to have racism against especially Middle Eastern peoples. And what are we finding out in the Jeff Stein McEffrey emails? Jeff Stein McEffrey is a raging anti-white, anti-black racist man who believes that Jewish DNA is magical and has a higher power than the cattle. So in other words, we've been told the greatest sin was to be racist. The so-called elites are 10 times more racist than anyone else. And everybody is living under some delusional hypocrisy, listening to the establishment telling you not to be racist, as the establishment in their private communications absolutely hate everybody. Now, here is the establishment journalists, what is perhaps the greatest conspiracy, corruption batch of information in the history of America, the history of perhaps Western civilization. And what are the big journalists saying? Who finds this incredibly boring? Am I the only person? Matt Taibbi. No, you're not the only. So the mainline supposed journalists are saying, don't worry about Epstein. Remember Ben Shapiro? There's nothing there. There's no files. This should immediately discredit all of those people. Will it? Probably everybody will grow those audiences now. They'll probably have bigger audiences. It's like when, and I'm joking, but remember when Hawk Tua was trying to make a comeback? Remember when her crypto scam happened and we were talking about on the Sam Hyde show, and Sam made a joke. He said, no, she won't die out. She won't be ended by her crypto scam. She'll probably be 10 times bigger. Now, thank God in her case, Sam was making a joke, but she actually, I think, is done, right? Because somebody was saying the other day she had like 9 people on her live stream. So I think people have seen through Hawk Tua, and thankfully her media dominance is over from her crypto scam rug pull. But is anybody going to stop listening to Daily Wire and Ben Shapiro? Probably not, because you would think this would discredit people, but it doesn't. This was an odd one. Epstein refused to buy a model from Cheboksary, and the girl ended up eventually supposedly appearing in the John Wick film. And the reason he didn't buy her was that he said, I'm looking for younger girls. She's 24, from Cheboksary, lives in Brooklyn. She's a go-go dancer. I'm not exactly sure how they figured out it's the John Wick chick here, but according to this thesis, this is what the people are saying. And Epstein says, no, she's got to be way younger than 24. Well, not surprising there. This one gets into the geopolitics. This is a redacted email to Epstein from somebody we don't know. They're laughing about the Greeks rioting and going into debt slavery, enslaving the people, and laughing at the fact that the broke Spaniards and Mediterranean peoples are stupid and that they've enslaved them. Now, remember all the other Jewish supremacy statements from Epstein. So, no, why would this be surprising at all? They are rioting in Athens, striking in France. The Spanish are bankrupt and the Portuguese can't afford their pants. So they're trying to make rhyming jokes about it. And remember, we saw last night that Epstein was aware of and was involved in, to some degree, helping to explain and perhaps collate the Greek debt crisis and the buying up of Greece at what was called the fire sale that Max Kaiser was covering back at the time, where they were doing the banker bailouts, the European bank bailouts, right? So Epstein had his hand in that. The question, here's a better question. What didn't Epstein have his hand in? Now, here is an interesting conversation between former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak and Jeff Stein McGeffrey about Peter Thiel and Palantir. Let's hear this.
He thought there was 2 cyber companies. Look out, and even though I know Peter, I've never met Peter Thiel, and everybody says he sort of jumps around and acts sort of strange, like he's on drugs.
Smoking, yeah.
Yeah.
He looks there under drugs.
However, he has a company called Palantir, Pallen. Tier. Palantir is Peter Thiel's company, and look out.
Palantir, Palantier?
Yes.
How you write Thiel? Thiell?
Thiel.
They don't even know how to spell it.
No. Thiel.
They're like spending like 2 minutes trying to spell Palantir. It's PALANTIR. You would think you would know that, being this intelligent. But, by the way, it's from the Lord of the Rings. I don't even know that.
Oh.
Okay.
So he thought that Peter would put you on the board of Palantir. Peter Thiel is one of the best. I've never met him. He's going to come here next week. So I wanted to talk to him after I talked to you.
Okay.
He and Andreessen, it's called Andreessen Horowitz. Andreessen Horowitz, they pay Larry $1 million a year just to advise them.
Andreas and
ANDRE and Horowitz.
and Howard.
HORO, Horowitz.
What they are? It's a lobbyist. What they are doing?
They are the biggest venture capital people in Silicon Valley.
Well, bigger than Sequoia or Kleiner
These are the new Kleiner Perkins. Everybody, these are the smart boys. So those two companies right away, in terms of, I said that we need now in the next 3 weeks if you're going to leave.
All right. This is a parody account, though. So let me see. Let me make sure this is real.
So there was
Now I'm wondering if this one is real. Although there was another email that backs that up, right? There was an email where Epstein was saying, I want to get close to Peter Thiel and Palantir. So let's see if there's anybody else questioning this one. Because it could just be, that could be AI. So let's see. Here's another person posting it. Let's see.
companies. Look out, and even though I know Peter, I've never met Peter Thiel.
Because I think this one is, apparently most people think this one's real. And underneath it, they included what appears to be a bruncheon, where there's some sort of a schedule. He says, I've got dinner with Ehud Barak and Larry Summers. I got a meeting with David Stern, the NBA guy, presumably. So this guy's saying that this is the dinner that this audio might be referring
He
to.
thought there was.
So people are basically piecing together Jeffrey Epstein's life from all this craziness. This is wild. Let's see.
A never get again. This is an incredible audio file on just.
Here is Mike Benz also playing perhaps the same file. Let's see if this is the same one. This one's a little different. I think it's longer. So Mike Benz is showing that he's playing it from the justice.gov. So let's hear what this one's about.
Justice.gov. I'll put the source link below. I'm at the 2:10 mark. I'm just going to play this full exchange between Jeffrey Epstein and Ehud Barak. For context, now I found this from a clip that Ryan Grimm posted. He deduced that this was a February 2013 meeting between Larry Summers, Ehud Barak, and Jeffrey Epstein. For context, Ehud Barak was the head of Israeli military intelligence from 1983 to 1985. Then he became the Prime Minister of Israel at the same time that Bill Clinton was the President of the United States. Then he became the basically their version of the head of the Pentagon, the defense minister. He left that position in March 2013, and this is February 2013, 1 month before he leaves government office. Now, this is important because what you are about to see is a conversation between the outside fixer, Jeffrey Epstein, and the still head of Israeli military as he transitions to the private sector, and the conversations about how to create your own private business and how Jeffrey Epstein shapes this. Listening to this conversation, I think, will give you a very...
Now, this is important because notice right here what's trending. Ben Shapiro says the Epstein files are all overhyped rumors. So he's running point for this. Why does anybody follow Ben Shapiro?
Deep understanding of the role that Epstein plays in mediating the lucrative success of private careers for formerly government officials.
So this is a key point because this is another window into exactly what type of fixer, organizer, scheduler, consultant, Bond villain type of stuff he was involved in, right? So this is going to give you another window into how prolific he was at that specific skill set.
So what Tom asked me this morning,
Tom appears to be Tom Pritzker, who is the chairman of the Pritzker Foundation. He's the head of the Hyatt hotel chain. His brother is J.B. Pritzker, the governor of Illinois.
He told you at Davos was he thought you should make a list of his words, not was metrics. He said is that who's out of the people in the past who you think you're close to? He said that he really wanted you to make this list of this person owes me a favor, this person owes me his life, this person owes me his job.
So what you're hearing him say, again, this is someone who led Israel's most elite covert commando unit and then became head of Israeli military intelligence, then became the head of the country, and then became the head of its military, and is now going out on his own at the age of 71 to try to make money to convert what was government power into personal financial power. Now, it appears that Epstein played this role in the United States with CIA Director Bill Burns. It appears that he played this role in the UK. It's probably likely that he played this role with the Saudis as well.
Yes, and with Zelensky and Ukraine, and perhaps with John Paul II and the Vatican
as well. But this is a very instructive teaching moment for what a fixer tells a government official to do to convert his government power as it is cresting into a personal business empire. And the thing that he tells him to do is not market his skills or knowledge, but rather to compile a people index of people who owe you favors, people who owe you their lives. As I've said time and time and time and time again for a decade, but publicly here on this platform for 3 years now, this is the way it works everywhere. And whether it's Jeffrey Epstein or whether it's someone from a NGO or foundation or someone from a fund, the incentive in government is to accumulate people who owe you favors. That way, when you go out on your own in the outside, you are placed on lucrative board seats. You get funding from the foundations and philanthropies. You get startup capital. You get a huge sinecure, not for your government work, but for the moment you go private after your government work, because people owe you IOUs from your time in government. This is how the State Department gets captured. This is how the CIA and Department of War and USAID and these things get captured, because the incentive goes from being about doing what's best for the country to doing what's best for outside privateers who then owe you favors, IOUs, so that you yourself, when you leave that government post, are able to get those board seats, book deals, stock options, consulting agreements, VC capital, you name it. I'm going to keep playing.
This person owes me. Yeah, okay. And so you got to work it backwards and say, here is my, instead of thinking about what the opportunities are first, because right now you're focused on opportunities. Yeah. I need you to focus on your personal balance sheet in terms of competences. What's your real strengths? What's the liability? One of the liabilities is you're 71 years old, so you can't be in a business. It takes 20 years to make money. Yeah. We have to make money in the next 3 years. So, people, competence, things. So, I talked to Ian yesterday. I asked him to come. Yeah. He flew in from London. He's great for an hour.
What was his impression from the...
He's so same thing. Because he's very connected to Samsung. Very. Who? Samsung. Korean. Samsung. Yes.
How does Ehud Barak not know any of these references? Like, he doesn't know the corporations, he doesn't know the people, he doesn't know the Silicon Valley references. It's like, I would think being, IDF or whatever, he would know all these references. Kind of weird that he's like, what is this? What is this?
Very. They pay him $3 million a year.
Just to make PR?
Yes. He has 10 companies like that now. Okay? So he said there's this company called Lookout. He said he mentioned it to you. LOOKOUT.
Yeah. You told me.
Yep. He thinks they'll pay you a couple $1 million to be on the board.
Yeah. That would be good.
I understood.
So Jeffrey Epstein is arranging through his network of friends and people who likely owe Epstein favors for Epstein to then broker a board seat for $3 million or several $1 million to Ehud Barak. What do you think Ehud Barak's government salary was as the Minister of Defense in Israel? The Secretary of War in the United States makes about $250,000 a year. Suddenly it goes to $3 million because you got a friend named Jeffrey Epstein who can get people to back you. And part of that involves compiling that list of people who owe you IOUs, so they'll give you lots of money on the outside.
Now, another thing that's important to bring up is what Whitney Webb covers in the first few chapters of her excellent book, Volume 2, on Maxwell and Epstein and Ghislaine. Jim, could you hand me Whitney Webb's Blackmail, Volume 2 right there on the espionage shelf? Yeah. So early on in Whitney's book, she's got some really, really informative chapters on her originally, I guess, somewhat controversial thesis that everybody a few months ago or a couple years ago was totally denouncing and saying was crazy, conspiracy theory, evil, antiseptic, that the Rothschilds were the ones that were behind Epstein and Ghislaine. And then when they bring Epstein in, Maxwell and Ghislaine, and then when they bring Epstein in, Epstein continues the Rothschild schemes and techniques. People were saying that's totally crazy. Oh, it's so conspiratorial. Well, we already saw when Epstein emails Peter Thiel, he says, you do recognize that I represent the Rothschilds, right? He brags about it. And then we had the series of emails and correspondences between Ariana de Rothschild and Epstein, where they talk about fixing currencies, collapsing economies. They talk about benefiting from the Ukraine crisis in terms of companies and money. I mean, it literally says everything that Whitney theorized within the first few chapters. Now, I'm not saying that I agree with Whitney Webb on every single thing, but I'm saying that the main points in her book, as well as Gordon Thomas's book, had pretty much been, it would seem, vindicated. And my book as well, by the way. And Whitney, her publisher, is the same as my publisher too, by the way. And so when she wrote about Epstein's early days, what she could decipher when she was writing this, I think a few years ago, she talks about him being brought into the Dalton School, learning a lot of these, or making a lot of connections. Then the Barr, William Barr, having that OSSCI role to sort of spot him. Then he's connected to Khashoggi and other people connected to Mossad, even the Saudis, British intelligence as well. So they're all networked together, all of these elites in the West. But what he learns that's really seemingly, in my assessment, crucial was when he's at Bear Stearns, he and a partner are engaged in not money laundering. What's the word I'm looking for? When you're scamming through stocks, there was a Bear Stearns scandal that was Epstein and his partner Hoffman or Hoffmeyer, I forget the guy's name, but Jeff Stein's partner is the one that went to jail over that. It was some kind of a savings loan trading scandal or something. Somebody in the chat will remember. Insider trading, that's what it was. It was an insider trading thing, and Jeff Stein's partner went to jail and he didn't. He got promoted. So he learned the inner workings of the global shadow money system. That's what he learned and mastered. And what Maxwell had taught him was corporate takeovers. So what Rothschild had apparently taught Maxwell, that Maxwell taught Ghislaine, was how to do hostile corporate takeovers. Okay, that's what Whitney theorizes in the first few chapters. Then they teach that to Jeff Stein and the insider trading global money system, how it works. So what you're hearing is a person involved in all of this stuff because he understands criminal rackets and markets. That's what he's really good at. He's a fixer, consultant, scheduler person who is very good at that. That seems to be his real skill. People are debating whether he even really was good at mathematics. How good was he at piano? I don't know, but it seems like his real skill set is like he's understood black markets and criminal operations very well. And believe it or not, there are actually people who get the equivalent of PhDs in criminal activities. Now, I don't know if there's some criminal school. There could be. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, what's surprising anymore? I got my advanced PhD in criminal activities. Who knows? There could be some elite Bond villain school somewhere that we don't know, but nothing would even be surprising anymore. But an example of this was the Brazilian car wash scandal. And you guys have heard me reference this because I went to a dinner one time with a person who was very well connected, and they were involved on behalf of a U.S. agency in helping to prosecute the people involved in the car wash scandal. And the reason I bring that up is that he says it was structured the same way Gladio was structured in Italy, which was not just a stay-behind operation, but the whole of Italy was basically compromised through the P2 Lodge sex parties, the Bunga Bunga parties that Berlusconi talks about and had famously. That was going on back in the 60s and 70s under the Gladio operation to compromise through Licio Gelli and Michele Sindona the highest level politicians in Italy and the cardinals and clergy in Italy. And according to Gladio, they were successful in that. They had compromised basically the Italian government. According to Paul Williams, the Catholic Gladio writer on the Vatican Bank and all that, he theorizes that it was Kissinger running Gladio for the most part. And Kissinger was basically telling Licio Gelli, the P2 Lodge master mason, how to do all this. So Kissinger was teaching Gelli how to compromise at the Bunga Bunga orgy parties, the high-level politicians and cardinals. This all came out in the European media back in the 90s, and then that was before they knew it was called Gladio. Eventually they figured out it was called Gladio. That was all real and confirmed. The person that I had dinner with said this was the same structure and architecture of how the Brazilian car wash scandal, which led to the unraveling of the entire Brazilian government, interlocked into a giant compromise scam. So the whole government was compromised because a genius black market criminal and they didn't know his name. He had a code name, right? So he was called the Sicilian, which made me think, well, you know, that doesn't necessarily mean he's Sicilian, but he could have been. But assuming that he was, it was because he understood the architecture of Gladio that he was able to apply the same architecture of how to compromise the entire government through a secretive shadow government, using all the same techniques, not just of sexual compromise, blackmail, and all that, but also through secret societies and high-level planning. So basically, you have Bond villains that are real. You have evil geniuses. And if you watch the things on the Brazilian car wash scandal, it's not a car, it's just called that because it was ironically somebody accidentally leaving a car at a car wash that was like a stolen car that had some information in it. This led to the unraveling of the Brazilian car wash scandal. And guess what? It's the same structure as the FTX collapse. So they have a model of how to compromise an entire country through all of these elements, not just of payoffs or whatever, but it's the very type of thing that Jeff Stein McEfrey is apparently a master at. Hell, maybe Jeffrey Epstein was the Sicilian, right? Nothing would surprise me. But I'm showing you this because this is how to understand how the world is also run. I don't know who this is, but let's check out this video here that somebody made not that long ago about how a car wash exposed the biggest scandal in Latin American politics.
It was sold to the world as Brazil's righteous reckoning, a massive anti-corruption crusade that would cleanse the country's political system. But what actually unfolded wasn't a moral victory. It was lawfare, weaponized justice, used to bring down a government, jail a president, and hand the country to a far-right demagogue. This is the story of Operation Car Wash.
Now, notice, just because it says far right, oh, bees, trash, no, it doesn't. This is people working above left and right, right? Just like Jeff Stein McEfrey tended to be with Democrats, but he has no problem interacting with, on some occasions, right-wingers.
And how the United States helped sabotage Brazil's democracy under the guise of fighting corruption. The US has always had its hands in Latin America, coups, sanctions, covert ops. Brazil was no exception. By the early 2000s, the rise of Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva and his Workers' Party posed a threat, not because of corruption, but because they were too independent. Too left-wing, and too effective at lifting millions out of poverty. Washington didn't like it. They needed leverage. So in 2013, we learned the NSA had been spying on Petrobras, Brazil's state oil company, and even on Dilma Rousseff, Lula's successor. Surveillance. Strategy. Seeds of sabotage. In 2014, Operation Car Wash kicked off. It was framed as an epic anti-corruption crackdown. But behind the scenes, it was something else. The car wash team held secret meetings with the US Department of Justice and the FBI. Regular ones. Quiet ones. Coordinated ones. Instead of dismantling corruption, they built a political weapon. They crafted a narrative so powerful that evidence became optional. Dilma Rousseff was ousted in 2016. Not for taking bribes, but for accounting tricks, paying for social programs on credit and paying it back. That's it. No embezzlement. No kickbacks. But Car Wash had already done its job. The public had been trained to see social spending as inherently suspicious, even corrupt. She was removed without evidence. And her replacement, Michel Temer, wasn't elected. He was installed. His first order of business.
This isn't talking about the Sicilian. I wanted to get to that part. All right, let's see what this is a quicker one. Let's see if it's references that. All right, well, you get the idea. So there was a left analysis of it saying that it was a plot by the neo-libs, and then you have a normie journalist account of it, just giving the assessment of it. Anyway, so let's see, what does the Intercept say? Glenn Greenwald on it. Anyway, whoever was right or wrong, in reality, in Latin South American politics, it's neither. It's the neo-libs out of Washington and the socialists, they're all bad. So, but you get the idea. This is essentially the type of architecture of corruption, whether left or right, that Jeff Stein McEffery seems to be a PhD in.
Yep. He thinks they'll pay you a couple $1 million to be on the board.
It's like an agent, if you think about it, in the music industry, who negotiates on your behalf with the label, who negotiates on your behalf with the platforms. Most artists are only good at the music side of being a musician. They don't have necessarily the confidence, the Rolodex, the skill set, the network built up over decades to ask that on their own or to arrange it. So Epstein serves as a one-stop shop broker, especially around the money, with high-level intelligence and government officials.
I understood. He thought there was two cyber companies. Look out, and even though I know Peter, I've never met Peter Thiel. And everybody says he sort of jumps around and acts sort of strange, like he's on drugs.
Smoking, yeah. He looks under drugs.
Okay, this was
he has a company called
the part that we played earlier. So that is real. So we did confirm then that is real. So let's move on then to again, mainstream. I've never been inside a George Clooney. Have you even been inside a George Clooney? Douglas Murray, who debated Dave Smith on Joe Rogan, another normie, saying, who really cares? The people don't care about Jeff Stein McEffery. I beg to differ. It's the biggest news story of the last 50 years next to Kirk and Trump assassination news. I mean, this is like the biggest story of our time. This is the new Big Nine. I mean, maybe Koof is as big as this. And remember, in 2017, Jeff Stein sent emails to Bill Gates saying, here's some information on running pandemic simulations. We covered that last night. This one, somebody sent to me and said, Jay, please cover this one. I don't exactly understand what is going on here. It says, this is allegedly, I don't know what this is or where this is coming from. So allegedly Turkey sold children after this earthquake to Jeff Stein, smuggling them out on private planes. So again, I don't know if this is the case. This is some kind of document. It's hard to tell what it is. It looks like it might be in the Epstein tranche, but it's just a random document. It says each time they would travel one of these destinations, abuse would occur. So can't confirm, don't know what this is. It looks like some sort of lawyer legal document or something, but it doesn't seem out of the realm of possibility given the fact that we did see one of the emails a couple of days ago about tapping into the Thai children that could be displaced. So that would be potentially another trafficking reference. Epstein writing to PDF Luc Brunel, the modeling head of the modeling agency who ended up unalived. Well, it's organized in Ukraine. It's like the 1980s in Europe. Please send me pics later. In the 1980s, the politically connected Dutroux gang would procure women and grape them for the abuse rings. Now, we've covered the Dutroux affair many, many times. Not going to rehearse all that. It says this is Brunel emailing directly to Epstein McEffery. It's well organized in Ukraine. It's like the 80s in Europe. And Jeff Stein says, I'll send you pictures later. Excuse me. Epstein says to Brunel, yeah, that's right. All right. Now, this one is one that's going around as particularly disturbing. This is a legal document, so this doesn't necessarily prove anything. It says, thank God my parents picked me up for being Rockefeller on a plane. That was scary. He and Larry Summers are disgusting. I hope it's no relation. Somebody blacked out. Andrew is like his brother, I presume Prince Andrew. Only Skittles. I don't think they mean gay. Walk down to Madison Avenue. My mother has lost her effing mind, even though Ghislaine said it was the best route to take me home because Mr. Black is important. There will be hell to pay. I ruined their trip, and I am dramatic when that fat fuck bit me. He threw me on the floor, and there was blood all over Jeff's carpet. And I am the one that's the issue? Who the fuck bites people? Gross. No one is important, and Leon can F himself. I hate going to New York. So we don't know who this is or what this is about, but it appears to describe elites biting people for pleasure. There are always flights of horror, whether it's Jeffrey, Mr. Leonsis, Case, Snyder, Gregory, Colgan, don't know who any of these people are, or the seemingly good, quote unquote, federal worker. It's all horror. Nothing is what it seems. I'm confused by everything that you people expect to be good, even old senators like Mitchell. So, don't really know what this is or what the context is, but it seems to describe biting people and blood everywhere for, perhaps I'm guessing BDSM type stuff. All right, here's a weird one. Gil Bates bails on a Paris strip show and says he is too tired for Crazy Horse. Bill Gates decided that he was invited to Crazy Horse, the famous Paris strip club, said, no, I don't want to take the risk. He advises his advisor, Boris Nikolic, and then forwards the exchange to Epstein McEffery, reassuring him that Crazy Horse has become such a mainstream attraction that it would not be a risk. Bill Gates writes back and says, I would have done it when I was younger, but I'll have to skip it this time. So that one doesn't seem that interesting, but it says, a little more interesting is associates offered Epstein a meeting with a survivor who was supposedly developing special abilities. Now, this is really odd because this gets into does the trauma elicit in a person who's undergone this kind of trauma some kind of tapping into abilities, right? And I know this sounds kind of crazy, but a lot of fiction, right, gets into this with, X-Men, New Mutants, right? I'm not saying that time travel and this kind of stuff, but I'm saying some people have studied, could trauma-based mind control cause a person to have the ability to remote view or this kind of stuff, psychic abilities. That has been studied. In a January 2018 email, Jeff Stein gets an email from somebody named Gino Yu. It's very disturbing. It says she is a classic stage 3 in the model. Now that could refer to sort of stages of mind control, stages of trauma-based mind control, where they are in some sort of programming. I don't know. I'm just saying what it could be. She was traumatized when she was young through SA, and now she is coming into her own and starting to develop special abilities. Now, that could also refer to not actual X-Men stuff, but it could refer also to special sexual techniques, right? Because if you remember, if you've seen movies like Red Sparrow, right? You have Jennifer Lawrence being trained by the NKVD in honey trap, sexual entrapment, sex techniques. And that's real, right? They're the NKVD, the Chinese, the Japanese. We've covered this in the history of espionage. They had actually had training for prostitutes to learn to be government spies and be really good at humping. I'm a stage 3 PhD humper, right? Someone was categorizing the survivors by the stages and offering to connect them to Epstein. Now, this sounds, my guess would be it sounds like studies that were done maybe adjacent to or within MK Ultra for sex kitten type operations. That would be my initial guess. The email mentions a London group that uses iboga, the hallucinogen from the shamanic, initiation of various tribes. And this was under something called alternate paradigms. So this sounds like straight up MK Ultra stuff. So here's the email. It says, I am in Paris. I'm about to write you. This popped up. She's a classic stage 3. Okay. And again, if you've read a lot of the MK Ultra books, this sounds like what you would find in there. It says she has 3 in the classic stage 3 in the model. Outlier, she's intelligent, traumatized when young, SA. She is gradually coming into her own, becoming self-realized. I can share our text interactions with her permission. She's starting to develop special abilities. This trip has shown us, we found lots of stories like this. I've been working with many people with the model with good success. So this is some Asian person involved in this, apparently spotting and recruiting women who've undergone this that can be recruited. Now, this is wild. I mean, this sounds like straight up MK Ultra sex kitten programming stuff. This sounds like freaking Fritz Springmeier stuff, right? Now, tomorrow, I will be premiering the interview that I did today with Dasha. And I was legitimately surprised when I watched Dasha's own movie, The Scary of 61st, which was kind of her independent horror film, very influenced by Eyes Wide Shut, Rosemary's Baby type stuff, right? It's not for children, so be forewarned if you do watch Dasha's movie. It's adults only watching this when the kids are asleep or whatever, and be prepared. It has mature images and themes. But this film deals with essentially what Dasha describes as a story adjacent to the Eyes Wide Shut universe. And a big theme in this is explicitly Jeffrey Epstein and trauma-based sexual mind control. So I was really surprised that Dasha had that much stuff in her films explicitly about Epstein. I mean, that's a huge part of the movie and the plot. And I think Dasha made that in 2020. But when I was interviewing her today, I was like, have you seen a lot of these recent files? And she was like, no, I don't really want to see it. It's a little too dark. And I was like, well, this is what's in your movie. Like this stuff right here. Somebody said, who's Dasha? Dasha is Dasha Nekrasova, who is of the Red Scare podcast. If you remember, we had a tongue-in-cheek debate with Dasha a few months ago, right? Because she, around 2020, decided that Hollywood was crazy. Epstein stuff woke her up, and she decided that she would go to an Eastern Catholic church. But she's had some interest in Orthodox stuff, and I think that's what made her decide, well, I was raised Catholic. I didn't really believe it. Orthodoxy is interesting, so I'll choose the middle road of Eastern Catholicism. That was seems to be her line of reasoning. And so we had a really interesting conversation today. I'm going to air that interview tomorrow, so that will premiere tomorrow. But her movie had all these themes in it that have basically been seemingly vindicated through a lot of the recent releases. So even she was like, I didn't even know this was in these files. So crazy, crazy stuff. We're going full on, MK Ultra, Delta programming, sex kitten programming stuff. Now, again, I'm not saying that I know, because we don't know what that is, right? This is just some bizarre email from someone called Gino Yu about what appears to be that type of stuff. This is a weird one, kind of an amusing one. Epstein apparently had come up with a recipe for a laxative muffin that was so good, people wrote him poems about their bowel movements. This is how gross these people are. So here's Jeff Stein McEffery's special bowel movement recipe, and somebody wrote him a poem about it. Just really gross stuff. Denmark's United Nations refugee director, and remember, a lot of the UN stuff is always tied into, for decades, human trafficking, many, many scandals out of the UN about that. In fact, New York detective Jim Rosenstein was interviewed on RT by Sean Stone when he was investigating the son of Sam, that it led him to UN diplomats pimping out and compromising people. That's how crazy even his research into Son of Sam led him to UN sex scandal stuff. And it says she has just stepped down, Denmark's UN refugee director, Joanna Rubinstein. She met Epstein at his island and brought her kids to the island. What crazy person brings kids? Well, we saw the Queen of, was it Princess of Denmark? Or I forget. The first night we covered this, it's all kind of melding into my head, asking Jeff Stein McEffery for parenting advice. And then her son is now on trial for rape. So people were saying, this dude's literally Joffrey. I think it's Denmark, right? So, and then there was another email alleging that she had actually got pregnant by Jeff Stein McEffery. Now, for the skeptics and the people that say this doesn't matter, you realize we've already had multiple people stepping down. And Trump is even saying he's going to sue Wolf, the journalist that Epstein was writing to Wolf, saying, how can we screw over and put pressure on Trump? And Wolf colluding with Epstein. Trump said yesterday that he will perhaps sue the Wolf guy. Now, if this is all irrelevant and fake, why are lawsuits being launched? And why have we had already multiple people, including, I think, Mandelson, a couple other EU and European politicians, are already stepping down because of these revelations? Oh, but nothing matters. It's not real. It's all, there's nothing here, nothing to see. There's nothing to see. This one is a weird one because somebody in the FBI this is just a funny one, says that they didn't know where Wisconsin is. How would you make it to the FBI? And somebody made a funny joke. They said, imagine being exposed in the Epstein files, but not for being a PDF, but for not knowing where Wisconsin is and having to Google it. It reminds me of the conversation that Epstein was having with Bannon, where he was like, is your banana conscious? And Bannon says something like, well, it doesn't have a mind. And Epstein's like, well, that's just words. It's like, are you drunk, dude? Like, how can you be this like international Blofeld fixer, but you're like retarded on other stuff? It's weird. I don't know, but I guess this is why, perhaps this is why nothing gets done. It's like FBI official doesn't know where Wisconsin is. And the reply is, I just Googled, I didn't know. It looks like it's northwest of Chicago. So here's your intrepid on the spot investigators don't know where Wisconsin is. Now it turns out your boy the Dalai Lama here, it turns out he actually traveled to the island many times. Oh, so they weren't just buddies, and that makes perfect sense given what we've talked about with Free Tibet and that being a CIA operation, confirmed, declassified. It's starting to make sense why the Dalai Lama was tongue kissing people very young on video, because they're creeps, dude. They're all compromised creeps. Shout out to Johnny Woodward over here from the Sam Tripoli podcasts. He pointed out that Ron Paul is mentioned. Now people were, Ron Paul. Well, the funny thing is that Epstein actually says that Ron Paul is the one candidate who could have fucked up some of their plans. So let's see what he says. He says, we can't predict how far the U.S. will go, especially during the election year. Everybody is falling over themselves to show support for Israel, except for Ron Paul. So Ron Paul could fuck up the program. So I guess there's a vindication for Ron Paul there. Here's a weird one, perhaps tying into Stanford research and the remote viewing. Uri Geller. If you remember, Uri Geller was connected to Stanford research, and Uri Geller, I think, was previously in the IDF. And it says Epstein is sent a bent spoon from a parapsychologist. Parapsychologist Dean Radin sends an email to Epstein about a triumphant photo that he had bent the spoon with his psychic powers, dubbing it his holy relic. Radin leads the Institute of Noetic Sciences, which is a New Age Stanford research outfit. Of course, that connects to the Tavistock Institute that we've talked about so many times. And here we have a Tavistock Noetic Institute connection, New Age connection to Jeff Stein McGeffrey. By the way, that's not surprising because it turns out Jeff Stein was actually pretty interested in a lot of weird New Agey concepts. He talked about folding dimensions. He talked about transhumanism all the time, very involved in transhumanist stuff. So we can see why Jeff Stein would have interests in New Age tendencies. This also ties into perhaps somebody needs to see if there's Kabbalah references, right? So I don't know if anybody's checked to see if Kabbalah comes up, but there does at least obviously appear to be multiple Talmudic references. People are saying that the book set behind Epstein is a Talmud set. It could be. It's old, blurry tomes, so I can't really tell what it is. I wouldn't be surprised. He obviously has and reflects the mindset of the Talmud, which includes the idea of rabid Jewish supremacy. Here is, let's see, I'm not sure what this is, but this one is one of the more kind of sickening ones. Allegedly a purchase of 2 foreign youths, but let's see what it is. It says confidential, so it could be lawyers, it could be FBI. We don't know exactly what it is. Let's make sure that it's there. Okay, it is there. Everything's redacted. It says, Edward, this is sensitive. You can choose to take it or trash it. There's a person that has seen it all, former staff at Zorro Ranch, presumably. The material below was taken from Jeff Stein home as my insurance in case of future litigation. No questions. What is damning about Jeff Stein is yet to be written. Did you know somewhere in the hills outside Zorro, there are 2 foreign girls buried on order of Jeff Stein and Ghislaine? They died during rough fetish sex. And then it lists, it doesn't have actual videos, obviously, but it lists the videos. Here is the video footage of Jeff Stein. But here's something that's a little weird. It says, arrange for 1 Bitcoin to be sent, which makes that a little suspicious. Not saying that it's not true. I mean, first of all, if this was a legal document, they wouldn't be asking for Bitcoin. So it also, oh, by the way, there is a name here. It says from Eddie Aragon. Eddie Aragon. So don't know what that is. Let's see what people in the comments are saying. People need to dig up every square inch of Epstein Island and Zorro Ranch. At the time, Bitcoin was worth a little under 10,000. Oh, so people are saying this is a weird lowball blackmail? Could be. It's weird, though, to send an email with your name if you're blackmailing somebody and you're only asking for $10,000. I don't know. The person named in this is a New York Republican. The ranch is 12 square miles, so that'd be a lot of digging. So anyway, it's unclear what that is, but it does look like it is some sort of a potential blackmail email. We covered that one. That was the Lepanto Institute, Catholic Institute, an outlet wondering why Jeffrey Epstein was cited as a important donor to Catholic charities, the Virgin Islands. Again, showing that that's a gigantic operation. This is an interesting news bit that just dropped a couple hours ago. Apparently, the Clintons are saying they will testify at House Oversight Committee hearings on Epstein. And, you know, whenever there's these hearings, I mean, does anybody ever get in trouble from a hearing? Is it just for media? I mean, there's always some hearing going on, but has anybody ever gotten in trouble from these hearings, or are they just media related? And I mean, I honestly don't know. I don't really understand what comes out of hearings. I've been hearing for my whole life about hearings. I remember when I was a kid, there was Iran-Contra hearings. Okay, did anybody get in trouble, or is it just hearings? Mbag says for $5, we own that BIPOC clock. Coleman says for $5, Jay, do you have the keys? There are so many locks that the Roman Catholics have to have the keys. Well, apparently you're not aware. It's just the key. There's only one key, and Peter has it because the Vatican is shaped like a key. Nelly, $20. I got to board a plane for London in a moment. I missed this stream. Dang it. Best wishes to all you guys. You guys are the best brains out there. You're the best. There's nobody like this on the internet. Jay, you are the master. Good night. Well, thank you, Nelly. That's really kind of you. Nelly's been a pretty fat super chatter. So shout out to Nelly, and find the jury star and tell him make me a grill. Blacksmith, $2. Wiggers are always fashionably late. Billy Corson says for $10. I don't understand why the stream doesn't have at least 100,000 people watching. Because you would rather watch retarded bullcrap about Sumerian time travel technology. That's why. People don't want the actual legit information. They want to hear just crazy Tartaria shit. Midnight Light, $2. Matt Dillon Monkey is my favorite song. Make a key song. I might do that. Nephilim Death Squad, $5. This is the best intro ever. Thank you. David Infinity, $5. Ian Brzezinski gave a talk on the transatlantic relationship today. This was at my Alexander Hamilton Society chapter, University of Michigan. That sounds interesting. Yeah, the transatlantic relationship is a key insight into how the world is run. Man, my N-word Bongino is quiet as a church mouth. Dude bro says, so Dan Bongino is not talking about Epstein? Well, remember, didn't he say there isn't anything? So we had a lot of these people say, oh, there's nothing. Let's see. Octavian gifted 5 memberships. Appreciate that. Zach gifted 20 memberships. Awesome, Zach. Jay, what is the flavor of Alp that you like? Absurdodox. I just so far have gotten used to the tropical fruit because it tastes kind of like juicy fruit. So that's the one I'm into. But Alp, I like Alp. They don't make me sick. I had one Zen and puked right away, so it's disgusting. But Gorilla Biscuits, $5. Jay, what do you think about the Mormon Bigfoot dilemma? They think Cain is Bigfoot. Yes, we've had multiple callers and former Mormons talk about this. What is your take on it? I think it's laughable and preposterous. God bless you and the blacks. Dan Vicious, $5. Cardinal Burke is my cousin, Second Covenant. Is he evil? He seems based. Dan Vicious, $5. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I suppose there could be some, genuine Roman Catholic believers amongst the clergy, but they would definitely be outliers. Dan Vicious, $2. Cardinal Burke is the son of my grandfather Cliff's sister. Interesting. Andrew says for $2, the keys of Diddy. Iron Giant, $10. Did you see the Catholics in Germany are planning a Harry Potter mass? Yes, we mentioned that at the beginning of the stream. Aurelio Moran, $10. Didn't Monica Lewinsky write a poem? Oh, I'm not sure. That would be interesting. I made fun of her for it because it was titled something, I am a pizza. I can't donate much, but I appreciate the information. Well, I appreciate that. Aurelia Moran, $5. A male friend sent me your way. I started feeling ambivalent and was burnt out on Roman Catholicism. Well, take a look into Orthodoxy. Turner, $20. Great info as always. Thank you so much. Thank you, Turner. Appreciate that. That's a fat super chat. Dan Vicious, read your super chats. We're doing it. JD Ahaj, $5. This world ashy. Candace is a prime candidate for a Mormon space wife. Isaac Lavana, $10. Did you watch the Epstein interview yet? No, in fact, I was thinking we might just watch and comment on the whole Bannon Epstein interview that leaked. I wonder if we get away with that. Shout out to Myron Chuck. Jason says for $10, Colonel Oliver North went from Iran-Contra to head of the NRA. Just saying. Interesting revolving door there. Are you going to watch the... Yeah, I think we will watch the Bannon Epstein interview. But it might have to be maybe after the Dasha interview. Just because I'm getting kind of tired. This has been y'all, I mean, we're like 11 hours into Epstein info in the past few days of live streaming. 11 hours of live streaming. It's crazy. B. Scott, $5. You see John Mappin is in the Epstein files. Oh, interesting. He is the Scientologist that Candace is always calling out for the Charlie Kirk theories. I'm aware of who he is. And introduced her to... Wait, he's Candace's #1 supporter on the Charlie Kirk theories. introduced her. So no, I was not aware that he pops up. Let's see what comes up for that guy. Oh, yeah, okay. So he's the person that Nick is always calling out, right? Nick is always talking about John Mappin. Dude, all I have to do is like refresh Twitter, and every refresh is a new insanity file. Haiti earthquake. Remember the Haiti Clinton initiative scandals? Let's see what this. Epstein and others became very interested in Haiti. Well, that's not surprising. The Clintons were interested as well, and the Clintons and the Epsteins are very close. Digging a bit of Haiti discussions, I found a very interesting email. This one is deep. In 2011, Jeff Stein emailed an unnamed contact about a low-key personal trip to Port-au-Prince. He wrote that he and somebody named Steve received an invitation to come to the newly elected president, Michel Martelly, who took office that May. Epstein proposes a quick one-day visit, no official business, no involvement of Bill and Melinda Gates, and everything should be kept quiet on the down low. Epstein said this is due to Haiti's chaotic banking system. It would make a good spot to park money discreetly. The contact replies that they discuss more in a few weeks, and Epstein responds by saying, "I'm in." This is interesting as well. Pritzker, Epstein, Hyatt, and the DNC hack. Epstein says, "I hope it's fun. Thought you might enjoy the fact that my server was attempted to be hacked in Malaysia. It's a very small world." Tom Pritzker, "We have a hotel hack from the same source as the DNC. I assume they are after our gross margins in Cherry Hill. I'm still working on Japan. I'm in Aspen at the moment." Epstein, "Unless Russia wants credit card information, the DNC was unlikely hacked by state, most likely Chinese." Tom Pritzker says, "I've purged the credit card information from the servers. The hack was in Baku during a conference. The Chinese didn't like Hillary Rodham Clinton. When asked, I explained that they ain't seen nothing yet. Be careful what you wish for." All right, don't know what to conclude from that, but so we were going to see, what was it, John Mappin. Reminder, John Mappin is in the Rolodex Black Book there. Mappin helped Charlie set up turning points, allegedly, in the Black Book. Is that what you're referring to, or is there something else? So we got more super chats. Illuminati checker, $10, checkerboard floor. I'm not sure if you saw this. The Jepstein email about gymnasts was after Pope Benedict. Yeah, I covered that last night. I mean, I was just speculating. In fact, I was halfway joking that was the gay gymnasts organized by Jeff Steinbeck. HMO's 5 pounds. Can you recap the Vatican implication? That's the first 20 minutes of this show today, so just rewind. And it's a lot. Really, it's more so John Paul II. So you can get into, because it gets into the history of the Vatican recognizing Israel and Gordon Thomas's information. 7 martyrs. I'm gonna grease up really good. Said this morning. Okay. Alex, $5. Sam Shampoo said that you're terrible and their Trinitarian theology would destroy you. Well, Sam Shampoo is an literal lunatic. So the fact that anybody's listening, I mean, if you're going to listen to Candace, you might as well listen to Sam Shampoo. KJ, $5. Are we voting for our favorite pig revolution? V. Scott, I tagged you in Cinema Shogun post. Well, there's so much going on. I'm not even seeing tags at the moment. So I don't know. I mean, Sam Shamu is the same person who doesn't even know that the church fathers teach the energies. So let me remind you that Sam Shamu blasphemes the energies. And this is who you want to go to for theology? A person who believes that dust particles are miraculous orbs? Basically, right. And I mentioned
That's what I say his main argument.
Okay.
The Pope is very.
So if the orbs are confirmation, I believe they are.
He believes that the dust particles that he sees are orbs manifesting that God confirms his ministry. This is who you want to listen to about anything? You have problems.
So if the orbs are confirmation, I believe they are. It's not for the purpose of making me puffed up or you idolizing me. It's a reminder, as weak as we are, as sinful as we are, as imperfect as we are, the Holy Spirit Almighty is still working in and through us because he loves us and he's here. So if the who's having a
now here, let's hear this brilliant patristics scholar comment on the divine energies.
meltdown, keep foaming, dude. We're gonna call you out. We're gonna get you. Don't worry about it. Down, girl. Get some more energies. Maybe it'll help you. You stupid bastard. Like I said, thanks for the receipt, queerbait. I'm going to show them who ran from William. Down, girl.
Go get some more energies. Who
And
ran
I
from
said,
who? Here is William Albrecht agreeing to do the debate and then canceling the next day.
does that work for you? And he said, does he agree to my thesis? If he does, then we are set. And I said, oh, well, can you rewrite it and make it more clear for me? And he said, okay, it's very difficult because I'm tending to my daughter now. Give me a few minutes and I'll write it out without typos. If he agrees, we're 100% set. And then all we have to do is iron out a date. And I said, yes, he agrees to that the post-Vatican II church contradicts the pre-Vatican II church magistrate and tradition. I read Jay that exact message, and Jay said, I agree. I told him, yes, he agrees to that. That's it. It's done. It's locked in.
And William canceled the next day, as did Sam Shamu. Now, again, people are talking about his nasty-ass cat apartment. Yes. My thesis is that he has tox orb plasma gondii due to his nasty-ass cat apartment that he doesn't clean up. So if that's who you want to go to for your theology, go for it. Jay, whatever happened to debating Wes Scuff? Wes Scuff has always said he will not debate. He's reiterated that probably 5 times. Sam said he would destroy you on those topics. Sam Shamoon is nothing but a shit talker and never debates anyone about those topics. He's not going to debate me. He's just mad because he probably finally watched the music video that we made of him. Kara, the nerds need to come together with this beautiful black queen. Get Jay on Joe Rogan right now. Thank you, Kara. Kylo, $15. I'm currently reading Yaroslav Pelikan's Christianity and Classical Culture. I'm a slow boy. I'm on page 11. Well, it's a good book. You're going to enjoy it. Big Boss, $10. You got to take down yesterday when you were scrolling for things you committed phallic fallacy. Banana up the butt, $10. Jay, a lot of emails from Valerie, Post Director, Events Council of Foreign Relations. If you search the site, okay, so the CFR you're saying comes up a lot in these emails. JV free $1. Thank you for doing a stream on Jeff Stein and the links to MK Ultra. Sam Scipio. This is an archive of stuff. Click on it. Okay, we'll check that out later. Dark Sickle. Starting to think that these are Shadow Elite are not even real. They're just demons. No, they're real. Farine Dean Carino, $5. Do you think that mainstream journalists like Matt Taibbi are also paid off, like Ben Shapiro? Is it just too normie, midway? It could be all the above. I have no idea. Nothing would surprise me. I don't know. Baxley Blanton, do you think $10? What do you think about Joseph Farrell, Breakaway Civilization, Ancient Technology? It's all just a bunch of out there kind of crazy stuff. So I don't go into that. Breakaway civilization. I mean, the elites want to have their own civilization, but the moon is not a Death Star. This is crazy. The pyramids are not giant laser weapons. JD $5. This World Ashy. No, we did that one. Cool Barracuda $5. My priest is friends with Father Turbo. Father Turbo has been texting 50 Cent and Wiz Khalifa after the movie Moses the Black. They're getting interested in Orthodoxy. Oh, wow. That's great. Now, people are asking me, I've not yet seen the movie. It's not playing anywhere near here. So I'll probably have to watch it when it's like available to stream. So, but I have not yet seen the Moses the Black movie. But I've heard that, I know that Father Moses is in the movie. So that's going to be interesting to see when it's available. Oh, Milanova, Jay, hello. What do you think about Saint Charbel? Yeah, I mean, we don't really get into Roman Catholic saints, so he's a Roman Catholic saint. He's not Orthodox. He's a Maronite Roman Catholic saint. Cool Barracuda, monogamy now, they'll change it to polygamy in the future in the Roman Catholic world. We need to share the love for man and all be one. Well, that was my prediction of the Pope of the future in my skit. Zinc sends $100 and says, here's your vindication tax. I owe you. Well, Zinc has won the Super Chat war tonight. Big fat Super Chat, $100. Thank you so much, man. You have won the Super Chats tonight. He says, you're vindicated. Thank you. Jay, $10. He says, I super chatted Nick Fuentes multiple times, 2 separate times. After the first one, he keeps saying, well, you guys lost the war. So I think he's talking about Byzantium. So he actually thinks that religions are proven on the basis of whether or not Byzantine empires stand or fall. Is he not aware that one of his greatest saints in his church, Augustine of Hippo, wrote a book called City of God, and that the entire thesis of that book is to argue against the Roman pagan accusation that Rome fell because of Christianity. And Augustine's thesis says you cannot prove or disprove a religion because an empire fell. But no, of course, Nick has not read City of God. I generally think Nick is a LARPing delusional person who thinks that he's a Roman soldier. Well, look, Roman Catholicism is a political religion at the end of the day. So it does not surprise me that all of those people are judging everything by political successes and losses. I mean, what do the people who support Nick say to me? Nick has more numbers than you, so you've lost. What does that have to do with what's true or false? Nothing. Alan Rodriguez, $2. Did you do too much Franzia before the stream and that made you be late? Yes, I did. I smoked too much Franzias. I was snorting Franzias. Nicholas, here's a cool 5, cuz. Thank you. President Retard, $20. Thank you for your cringe core, my ninja. Thank you. Big Boss, $5. There was a thing. I know that. I'm aware. Thank you, Big Boss. That was in the, if you search, You have to be careful if what you search from the Jeff Stein and the papal Skittles stuff, because if you try to search something papal Skittles, sometimes the X search will I'll have to figure out where in the timestamp that was. So thank you for that. But it's so fast, it's very hard to notice, but yeah. Okay, guys, there's going to be, I'm sure, a lot more Epstein information. Tonight's going to be a little bit of a shorter. We've gone for 2.5 hours, but we will probably be, given that it's 3 million plus files, we're probably going to be doing this for the next week, possibly, or more, right? As long as there's new information rolling out, we'll keep doing these evening streams. And I'll remind you guys to head over to show sponsor, which is chalk.com. That's CHOQ.com. The best in supplementation on the internet. Use the promo code J60Life. That's JAY60LIFE to get 60% off all those great Chalk products. Head over to chalk.com and look for tomorrow's Dasha interview that will be premiering. And then, depending upon how much new information